Dmitry Sches' innovative Thorn Spectral synthesizer is without doubt one of the virtual instrument highlights of the last few years, and with the exclusive CM edition you get the vast majority of its features and functions for nothing more than the price of a magazine. Make no mistake, despite its cut-down feature set, this is a monster synth that will furnish you with an endless supply of basses, pads, leads, arps, plucks, percussion and more. In this video we'll get you quickly up to speed with its architecture and controls. Thorn CM's two spectral oscillators generate their waveforms by modulating through up to 16 spectrum tables of 128 fully editable harmonics each, much like a wavetable synth. Turn the oscillators on and off with their power buttons, pan and level them with the pan and volume knobs, and load preset spectrum tables, visualized as waveforms in the display, from the preset selector menu or by clicking the previous and next buttons. The spectrum tables and their component harmonic frames are edited in the Harmonic Editor, which we'll come back to. To transition through the frames of a spectrum table, twist the position knob. This is available as a modulation target, which we'll also come back to. Tune each oscillator using the octave and semitone controls, and dial in a tracking sub-oscillator an octave down, outputting one of three waveforms with the sub knob. Thorn CM's oscillators can each output up to 8 unison voices, offset in pitch and panned across the stereo field with the detune and spread controls. The phase and phase mode parameters adjust the phase start and reset behaviour, while vibrato wobbles the pitch according to the settings in the vibrato modulator panel. Deactivating the keyboard button disables key tracking, useful for percussion sounds. Thorn CM offers a rich array of tone shaping treatments right at the oscillator level via a set of spectral and real-time effects attached to each one. Select one from the FX Type menu and tweak the amount applied with the knob below. Spectral effects alter the harmonics of the oscillator in real time. They include a variety of familiar processes, phaser, wah and notch, and the not-so-familiar likes of octaves, shift and primes. Real-time effects work in the time domain and include pulse width modulation, oscillator sync to an internal master oscillator, and frequency and ring modulation using Oscillator 2 as the modulation source for Oscillator 1 and the noise oscillator as the source for Oscillator 2. Clicking an oscillator's waveform graphic opens the pop-out Harmonic Editor. Here, the 128 harmonics that make up the waveform are represented as a series of vertical orange and blue bars. The height of each orange bar determines the amplitude of its harmonic, while the blue bars shift the phase. Adjust harmonics individually or drag the mouse across multiple harmonics in one of 4 drawing modes. Right-clicking reveals a menu of shaping functions and the option to import the frequency profile of an audio file, and all changes made are immediately reflected in the oscillator's waveform graphic. The 16 frames that make up the current spectrum table are arranged horizontally below. Define up to 16 harmonic spectra and move between them using the oscillator's position knob. Empty frames interpolate smoothly between the frames on either side. Mixed with the 2 spectral oscillators, Thorn CM's noise oscillator adds bite to the sound by outputting white noise, one of a number of built-in noise and percussion attack samples, or an imported sample of your choice. Adjust the pitch and offset the start point of the sample, and activate or deactivate looping and key tracking. Thorn CM's harmonic filter directly manipulates the amplitude and phase of the harmonics generated by the oscillators to radically alter the frequency profile of the signal. Think of it as a ridiculously high-resolution graphic EQ. A wide range of preset shapes is available, and you can get mouse on with the curve in the Harmonic Filter Editor, which is invoked by clicking the display and works just like its oscillator-bound equivalent. The shape knob shifts the curve up and down the frequency spectrum, while balance tilts it towards the highs or lows. Placed after the harmonic filter in the signal path, the resonant analog filter enables frequency shaping of the mixed audio signal generated by the 3 oscillators. It offers low, high and bandpass modes in various slopes and styles, the selection of which has a profound influence on the saturation brought to bear with the drive knob. It can also be set to independently track note pitch and velocity, and be modulated by either of Thorn CM's ADSR mod envelopes directly from its control panel. Thorn CM's modulation sources are housed in the bottom section of the interface, and there are 3 ways in which to assign them to targets. The easiest are to simply drag from the socket at the top of a modulator to the target parameter, or right-click the target parameter and choose the modulator from the Add Modulation menu, then drag with the right mouse button on the knob to adjust the modulation amount. Alternatively, open the modulation matrix in the tabbed panel and select a source, target, and intermediary control source from the menus, then set the modulation amount by dragging in the depth field. Thorn CM gives you a wealth of versatile tools for getting those signals moving. The first of its 3 ADSR envelopes is hardwired to the amplifier for volume modulation, while the other 2 are soft-wired to the filter. All 3 are also freely assignable to anything else in the modulation target list though, of course. The envelope's key control sets the amount by which the attack, decay and release stages are shortened as the triggering note pitch rises. For cyclical modulation, you get 3 LFOs. The first 2 are identical, running at rates from 25 milliseconds to 10 seconds, and featuring 9 waveforms, 2 of them random, fade in, phase offset, and a choice of polyphonic or monophonic triggering. The much simpler vibrato LFO is mainly intended for sine wave pitch modulation of the oscillators. Thorn CM's most powerful modulators are its twin multi-stage envelopes. These can be deployed as 64-node curve generators with adjustable slopes, or 16-step step sequences. Global control is provided over smoothing and shuffle, as well as gate time in step mode, and the slopes of all node connecting lines together, tension, in curve mode. Thorn CM incorporates not only an intuitive and flexible arpeggiator, but also the superb glitch sequencer rhythmic multi-effect section. The arpeggiator runs through up to 16 steps at rates from 4 whole notes to a 32nd note, and offers all the usual arpeggiation modes, up, down, random, all held notes together, etc. Spanning 1, 2, 3 or 4 octaves. The velocity sliders set the velocity of the note or notes generated for each step of the arpeggio, while the note parameter specifies the amount of up or down pitch offset applied to them, up to 24 semitones, and the global gate control shortens the notes when reduced. Legato transitions between pairs of notes are activated with the tie buttons, and the whole pattern can be swung with the shuffle parameter. The glitch sequencer is the jewel in Thorn CM's creative crown, producing supremely filthy rhythmic distortion, stuttering and filtering effects. Again, it runs at rates from 4 whole notes to a 30-second note, over up to 16 steps, and it can be triggered with note input or set to re-trigger only at the end of the amp envelope release stage. Each horizontal row of the glitch sequencer controls a particular effect. From the top row down, these are repeater, low pass filter, high pass filter, bit crusher, sample rate reducer, and gate. Drag the slider in a cell to trigger the effect on that step and adjust a specific parameter of it. Number of repeats, filter cutoff frequency, bit depth, sample rate, or gate time. The R button at the end of each row randomizes every step for that effect, just the thing for instant pattern transformation. The mix control, meanwhile, blends the wet and dry signals, and the Pre-FX button switches the positioning of the glitch sequencer between pre and post the main effects section. Helpfully, both the Arpeggiator and Glitch Sequencer have their own preset menus into which you can save your own creations. Thorn CM includes 4 fully featured audio effects arranged in series, each with its own preset menu, dry-wet mix control, and on-off switch. First in the chain is Distortion. Crank up the drive knob to feed the signal into a fuzzbox emulation, followed by one of 6 main saturation algorithms, an amp-style tone control, and a pair of filters, low and high pass, that are always applied when the effect is active, no matter what the dry-wet mix. The delay effect boasts independent synced left and right delay times, and a feedback circuit with low and high pass filters inserted. By default, each side of the stereo output is hard panned, but lowering the width knob brings them in towards the centre, ultimately monoising the whole effect. After the delay comes a simple 3-band EQ for sweetening and sonic control. Each band, bass, mid and high, comprises a gain control, plus or minus 16 dB for bass and high, plus or minus 20 dB for mid, and a frequency knob ranging from 20 to 100 Hz for bass, 800 Hz to 2.5 kHz for mid, and 3 to 7 kHz for high. Finally, the Reverb module serves up both plate and space algorithms, the latter the more dense of the two. Both are edited via the pre-delay, size and damp knobs, and the space mode also throws low and high pass filters into the feedback path for further dampening control. The top bar plays host to various ancillary functions, including pitch bend range, voicing mode, monophonic, legato or up to 16 voice polyphonic, and bass tuning. Here you can also tweak the glide time, set portamento to occur for every note or just those played legato, do away with the onset clicks that can occur with zero attack envelopes, browse Thorn CM's preset library, access the manual and play around with the preferences, including GUI size. Speaking of presets, individual controls can be rendered immune to patch changes by right-clicking them and selecting Lock. At the very end of the signal path, the master section features a limiter, plus the low and high end enhancing boost circuit, and a low cut filter for eliminating the DC offset that can occur with certain effects combinations. It goes without saying that you're going to love Thorn CM, and there's no reason why it shouldn't serve you well on its own terms for years to come. Nonetheless, should you decide to upgrade to the full fat Thorn, you'll be able to take advantage of a third spectral oscillator, a second analog filter, 4 extra analog filter modes, and 5 more audio effects. It costs £119 and is available only from www.dmitrysches.com.